Hello again! Last week we made this kid's bed, and this week we're going to be making the 4 drawers that fit under the bed, and also they double up as a step so the child can climb up into the bed. These drawers are big as you can never have enough storage, and we've designed them so they're really easy to build. So let's get building! We're using 2 sheets of 1/2 inch moisture resistant MDF for the drawers. We prefer to use MRMDF because it responds much better to paint, and we want to paint the drawers to match the bed. In our experience, regular MDF takes paint very well on the main surface, but the edges always prove challenging to get a good finish. The drawers will be made up of 5 panels. We want the base to be bomb-proof, so we'll be cutting a dado for this, and then the sides will be secured with pocket holes. We'll then attach a facade panel with built-in handle to the front to ensure that no pocket holes are visible. Now, it's much easier to paint large sheets than it is drawers, so our first job was to paint both sides of both sheets. We gave them a coat of primer and then another 2 coats of the same Faro and Bowl Oval Room Blue as the bed. We broke down the full sheets with a track saw into more manageable sizes, then moved over to the table saw. Drawers are an easy thing to build, but each panel needs to be consistent for them to go together easily and look good. And we were careful here with our order of operations so that we could batch common dimensions. For instance, the drawer sides and fronts need to be the same height, so we set the saw once and made all of the cuts in one go. Plans for these drawers are available on our website, makers-manual.com, and they're part of the kids' bed plans that we have there. Here you have it, all our panels are cut to size, ready for the next step. Now to cut the dado into the side, front and rear panels. We've watched other woodworkers with envy when they use a dado stack for this job, but our job site table saw won't take a dado stack, and even if it did, they seem to be hard things to purchase here in the UK. This led us to discover these amazing grooving saw blades, which we bought as an experiment. Unlike a dado, which is time consuming to fit, these little blades are easy to swap out and they'll fit any table saw. They also have a flat bottomed tooth, which is another thing that's tricky to find here in the UK. The only drawback we've found is their maximum width is 6mm, so we'll need to do multiple passes to get our desired width. Finally, they're cheap. We paid around £30 for ours, a bargain when you consider a dado stack is upwards of £200. We think they're a cracking find. We pass all 16 panels through the saw until we have the desired width of groove. Alternatively, to achieve the same result, you could use a table router, a dado blade, or multiple passes with a regular table saw blade. Using a pocket hole jig, it's now time to drill some pocket holes. We'll drill 3 holes on each side of the front and rear panels. And when drilling the lower pocket hole, just be careful not to drill too low as this will interfere with the dado. We then measure and drill screw holes in the 4 front panels, and to speed things up we did this in one batch by lining up all of the panels, marking the top one and then drilling down through all 4. It doesn't matter if they're a little inaccurate. Assembling a drawer can be a little bit like fighting an octopus. But after a few battles we found the best approach was to start by placing a bead of glue into the groove of a side panel and then insert the base panel centrally into that groove. This should support itself long enough to add glue to the front panel and then assemble like so. Once you get this corner, you'll find everything becomes much more stable and you can repeat the process for the rear panel. Make sure both front and rear panels are flush to the side and then screw into place. And since these screws are screwing into very little material, it's easy to strip the holes out, so to avoid this, use the clutch feature on your drill to stop any over tightening. Then with the last side panel on your bench, add glue to the groove and drop the assembly on top. Then screw it all together and you have a drawer. Well, nearly. We still need to add a front facade panel to hide those pocket holes. Next we add a radius to all 4 corners of the facade panel. We used a 1/2 inch spiral flush trim compression bit in the table router with a router radius jig. These templates make short work of adding any radius to your project and work with a table or hand router. You could also add the radius with a jigsaw. To make the handles, we'll be cutting a large slot. This will serve as both a handle and, as said earlier, a rung of a ladder to climb into the bed. Now you could skip this and buy a handle off the shelf, but just make sure that handle is strong enough to support a child and maybe the occasional adult. Now we've got 4 identical drawer facades to make, so you know what that means. We're making a jig. When cutting the front and rear panels, you'd have ended up with 9 panels and only used 8. So use this spare panel to make the jig. Now cut a 1-inch strip from both its length and width of the panel, then glue them back down like so, ensuring that they are at a perfect 90 degrees. We made a little mistake here and made the shorter strip too wide. This meant when we marked the location of the handle, it fell off the end of the panel, so with a little YouTube magic, it's quickly fixed. Use a hole saw to drill 2 circles that will become the slot. As you can probably see, our hole saw is getting a little bit tired, so Michael had the joy of smelling burnt MDF and a tougher fight than it should have been to cut these holes. We then used a jigsaw to connect the holes and a file to clean up any wobbly bits. It's worth spending a little bit of time to get that shape spot on, as any imperfections will be perfectly duplicated onto all of the drawers. With the jig finished, we place it on the facade panel and traced its shape. We drilled a hole to get the jigsaw started so that we can cut out the slot, aiming to stay about 1/16 of an inch or 1 mil inside of the line. And if you're struggling to get your jigsaw to negotiate the tight bend, double check which mode it's in. Jigsaws tend to have 2 modes, a fixed blade setting for straight cuts and an orbital setting to get around tight corners. Now is where the jig shines. With it in position and the facade panel in the same 1/2-inch spiral flush trim compression bit in the table router, we can clean up those edges. And before you say anything, yes, Michael is moving the part in the wrong direction. Always move the part against the rotation of the cutter. Men can get baby brain too, you know. We now need to remove some of this paint, so we have a raw surface to glue the facade to the drawer. So after marking the area that the drawer will overlap, we sand away the paint from both the facade and the front panel. We then applied plenty of glue to the drawer front, placed the facade on top, checked it was correctly lined, and then clamped it into position. Finally, we add 2 small wood screws. The glue will do the lion's share of the work, and the screws are just there to keep everything from moving while the glue dries. To finish the handle, we need to extend the cutout all the way through the carcass. We drilled a starter hole big enough for a router bit, drilling from both sides to keep things as neat as possible. Then using a palm router with a 1/4-inch flush trim spiral compression bit, we ran it around using the facade as a template and giving us the perfect handle. As always, we'll link below all the useful tools that we used during this build. They're affiliate links, so they don't cost you a dime, but they do help you support us, which we very much appreciate. And then to clean up the edges, we popped an 1/8 inch or 3mm roundover bit into the router and ran it along both sides of the drawer, giving us a really nice smooth finish. How many routers are too many? Actually, don't answer that. Finally, we broke all the sharp edges by running the sandpaper over them and then used a microfiber cloth to clean up any dust. We did a quick round of touch-up painting, sealing in all those raw edges with another 2 coats of paint. And we added a caster to each corner of the drawers, making sure that the screws that we used weren't long enough that they poked through into the base panel. And there you have it. 4 easy build drawers. If you've got any questions about this build, ask away in the comments below. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. If you've enjoyed this video, we have one more in the series. Next we're making a Pickler climbing triangle and slide. And as a bonus, the slide links to the bed that we've just made and provides a more fun way of getting out of bed in the morning. Please give us some love if you've got anything from this video. A thumbs up or a subscribe goes a long way. Until next time, cheerio!